Hi, I'm Monica Petrozelli, and welcome to Disability Advocacy Weekly, your weekly update on the issues affecting Americans with disabilities. Each week, we review the top national stories and local issues making headlines in the world of disability advocacy and provide resources that empower you to help make a difference. Our weekly video coverage in podcast format can be found on our website at www.disabilityadvocacyweekly.com. On August 18th, a deaf motorist was shot dead in the street outside his home in North Carolina. Daniel Harris, who was unarmed, was shot after a chase ended in the suburbs of Charlotte. His family says he was afraid of the police after previous encounters and may not have understood their commands. Following growing scrutiny of the state trooper involved in the shooting, the State Department of Public Safety issued a statement asking the public not to jump to conclusions in the case. Police records show that Mr. Harris was fleeing police at up to 100 miles per hour. The State Bureau of Investigation has opened a criminal investigation into the shooting, but the agency has released few details, including whether or not Mr. Harris threatened the trooper in some way. Disability advocates have called for better police training, while others have called it a tragic outcome from road rage. Did the driver's actions lead up to this response? What could have been done differently to avoid this tragic situation? This week, we're speaking with Donna Mack, an active advocate for the rights and abilities of those with disabilities for more than 30 years. Ms. Mack has served the last 18 years as chairperson of the Arlington, Texas Mayor's Committee on People with Disabilities and as a member of the ADA Access Committee for the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Ms. Mack, thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
First off, I would like to read you a section of North Carolina's basic law enforcement training manual about how to interact with deaf drivers. It says in part, "Keep your eyes on the person's hands. Deaf people have been stopped by an officer and then shot and killed because the deaf person made a quick move for a pen and pad in his or her coat pocket or glove compartment. These unfortunate incidents can be prevented by mutual awareness, which overcomes the lack of communication." Now, Ms. Mack, do you think that this is sufficient training for law enforcement when it comes to interacting with folks with disabilities?
Not at all, Monica. I believe that when possible, it's advisable to have actual people with disabilities involved in some way in a training process. For example, in our community, our law enforcement has just adopted a new training video as part of their curriculum for first responders. And the video was put together by a number of individuals in law enforcement and in fire rescue who are family members of folks with autism. And I think especially when you're talking about individuals with communication differences, it's just critical that our first responders be immersed in any kind of information that's out there regarding different communication techniques.
Mm-hmm.
It can make the difference in someone's life and death.
Absolutely. So what kind of training do you think that these police officers should definitely have?
I think that what was addressed in the training manual was good, but I think it's also important to have one-on-one interaction with deaf and hard of hearing individuals, as well as with, again, anyone with any sort of communication differences, people with autism or people on the autism spectrum. I know that here in my home state of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
we have an option for drivers who are deaf or hard of hearing to have an identification card that mounts on their visor that identifies them as a deaf or hard of hearing driver. And then there are that are listed for whatever their level of hearing or communication need might be. And I know that that's very helpful, along with the fact that, for some people, it may be identified on their driver's license that they have a hearing impairment or that they're deaf.
Mm-hmm. That would help. Now, Mr. Harris's family cites his fear of police as a possible reason he refused to stop. Should people with disabilities fear law enforcement, do you think?
Not unless they've done something illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, as a general rule, no, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I think that law enforcement should be there to help the community.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Harris led the trooper on a 10-mile high-speed chase. Considering the outcome, do you think he was justified in his decision to run?
Considering the outcome, wow. I think if that phrase were not a part of the question, my answer might be different.
I'll take it out then. Do you think he was justified in his decision to run?
No, I really don't. I think the outcome was incredibly sad and could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yeah, there's always room for more training on the part of first responders and law enforcement. Yeah, there's always room for that. However, as somebody with a disability myself, I believe that we have a responsibility in the disability community to advocate for ourselves, to be proactive. And I believe that we owe it to our law enforcement and to the others around us to remember that the able-bodied public they're not going to know about our world unless we let them know, hey, these are our needs, these are our rights, these are sometimes our frustrations, but we have to present that in a proactive way.
Mm-hmm.
What it all comes down to me is it's about communication and building relationships. Maybe the officer could have communicated differently, but where I come from as a non-driver and as someone with a disability, if there are in my rearview mirror, that means pull over. And what I think is unfortunate is I don't know if Mr. Harris panicked. I don't know what the situation was. But to me, if he were clocked going 88 and 70 and the officer is pursuing him, wanting him to pull over, instead of pulling over, he decides to increase his speed. If I'm that officer, I'm going to look at that and say, what is this person running from? What are they trying to hide? Because it looks like suspicious behavior from my vantage point. Rules of society are still rules of society. And unfortunately, when Mr. Harris chose to increase his speed, he was not only putting himself in more danger, but he was putting a lot of other motorists in danger. It's just unfortunate that the situation escalated, but I think that he could have probably prevented that just by, following protocol.
Yeah. So do you think that the victim's family said Harris likely didn't understand the officer's commands, and they're calling for computerized system to alert police when they interact with deaf individuals? Do you think this type of system has a place in the ADA?
I think it could under Title II. I know that government services and programs are supposed to be made accessible. However, it also says absent undue hardship, and I know that from my own experience in my own community in trying to ensure that people with disabilities have a way to alert law enforcement or any kind of first responders to the fact that, okay, say maybe someone in a household is a wheelchair user or has autism or uses oxygen or whatever might be the case for any kind of emergency that might come up. There's apparently special software that's pretty costly that needs to be installed for that. And so, that's something that is going to have to count the cost on that. And as their systems are upgraded, they'll have to invest in that. And unfortunately, I'm learning that not all municipalities use the same software. So, it's not going to be something I don't think that can be done across the board in a blanket application. It's going to have to be customized somewhat for each municipality. And again, when you're talking about small rural areas and maybe more remote areas, less populated places, that that may create an undue hardship for the municipality.
And it's certainly going to take some time. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Donna.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Monica.
Ms. Mack works with businesses and organizations to enhance the experiences of their customers, employees, and applicants with disabilities. You can learn more about her work by visiting www.disabilitydiplomat.com. For more details on this story, please visit our website, disabilityadvocacyweekly.com, and please follow us on Twitter at Advocacy Weekly or on Facebook at DA Weekly for updates in our latest episodes. Thanks for joining us, America. For Disability Advocacy Weekly, I'm Monica Petrozelli.